It was a quiet night on Mars 4 colony. The wind howled softly through the thin atmosphere as workers ended their shifts and the spaceport lights blinked in the fog. Jackson, a maintenance worker, wiped the grease from his hands and looked up at the sky. He had worked this same job for years, fixing broken landing gear and sweeping hangars. Nothing exciting ever happened on Mars 4, until tonight a loud boom echoed across the sky. Everyone turned as a fireball streaked down from the stars. An object broke through the thin clouds and crashed just outside the colony walls. Dust and red soil flew up in every direction. Alarms blared and soldiers ran toward the crash site. Jackson's heart raced. He had never seen anything like that. The object was a small escape pod. Blackened and cracked from re-entry, security formed a perimeter, weapons ready. With a hiss, the pod door opened slowly. Inside was a girl, alien but young. Her skin was pale blue with silver markings on her arms. She looked weak, barely able to stand, her eyes wide with fear. She raised her hands in peace. "I came. Warn," she whispered in broken English. The guard shouted, ordering her to the ground. But she fell before they touched her, unconscious from the cold and the journey. They cuffed her anyway and called for a med unit. "Take her to isolation," one of the officers said. "She could be dangerous." Jackson stood at the edge of the crowd. Something didn't feel right. He had seen threats before, pirates, smugglers, even off-world beasts, but this girl, she looked terrified, not dangerous, like someone running from something worse. Later that night, Jackson couldn't sleep. The image of the girl's eyes kept replaying in his mind. They were eyes full of sadness and warning. The next morning, he sneaked into the med bay while pretending to fix a broken vent. The girl was there behind a glass wall, weak and trembling. She had wires attached to her, machines reading her vitals. Two officers stood guard, talking quietly. Jackson slid closer to the wall and the girl looked up. Her lips moved slowly. "Please, listen. Earth danger." Jackson's chest tightened. She wasn't making this up. He saw real fear in her eyes. He mouthed back, "Why?" She touched the glass with her fingers and whispered, "Void swarm. Coming. Destroy." All before he could ask more, the guards noticed him. "Hey, this area's restricted," one snapped. Jackson quickly pretended to adjust a pipe and nodded. "Sorry, just maintenance," but inside, his thoughts were spinning. Back at his small quarters, he tried to search the term void swarm in the colony database. No results, nothing on the network. Nothing in news. If she was lying, why use a name no one knew? And why travel across space in a damaged pod just to lie? No, she was telling the truth, or at least what she believed. That evening, the medship came to transfer her to the military station orbiting Mars. She was sedated, carried out on a stretcher. Jackson watched from a distance, fists clenched. They were going to silence her, maybe even dissect her, she came to warn. And no one listened except him. He made his decision. As the ship began pre-launch checks, Jackson slipped through the maintenance corridor leading to the lower bay. He knew this station better than anyone. He reached the pod room where the girl was held under guard. He triggered a fake fuel leak alarm, forcing the guards to respond. When they left, he stepped inside. Heart pounding, she was groggy but awake. Eyes blinking in confusion, Jackson pulled the cables from her arms. "I'm getting you out of here," he said. Her voice trembled. "Why? Help me." "Because," he whispered, "I believe you." They moved fast, avoiding patrols and scanners. He led her through hidden maintenance shafts and out the emergency exit. Outside, the night sky above Mars 4 stretched wide and cold. In the distance, the stars glittered, and somewhere beyond them, danger was coming. They climbed into an old cargo hauler Jackson had fixed last year. It barely flew, but it had just enough fuel to escape Mars orbit. As they lifted off into the black sky, alarms rang through the colony, but it was too late. They were gone. Jackson looked at the alien girl beside him. Her name, she said, was Sariel. She had come from a dying star system. She had traveled 369 light years to save Earth, and now only one human believed her. The stolen cargo hauler drifted quietly through space. Jackson sat at the controls, his hands shaking slightly. The stars outside looked calm, but his heart was racing. He had just betrayed his colony, stolen a ship, and broken a prisoner out, all for a girl he had met once. But somehow deep inside he knew he did the right thing. Sariel lay on the floor, still weak, her breathing slow but steady. Jackson glanced at her, unsure what to say. After a long silence, she spoke in a soft voice. "You helped me," he nodded. "Yeah, I did." Why? She asked again. Jackson looked at her. Because you looked scared, not dangerous. And no one listened. She sat up slowly, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. I came to warn your people, she said. But they didn't believe. Jackson leaned forward. Tell me everything from the beginning. Sariel took a shaky breath, then began to explain. Her planet, Arvala, had once been full of life, floating cities, crystal oceans and peace, but one day, the stars changed, strange lights appeared, followed by silence. Ships sent to investigate never returned. Then the sky turned black. Something came. Something that wasn't alive but moved like it was. She called it the Void Swarm. It devoured light, metal, thought, even memory. It doesn't just kill, she said. It learns, it copies. It would mimic voices, pretend to be family, and lure people into traps. Her people tried to fight, but it was useless. Their cities were erased from existence, not even ruins remained. Only a few ships escaped, including hers. She traveled alone for months, hoping to reach Earth before the swarm did. Jackson listened in silence, his mind struggling to accept it, but the way she spoke, the pain in her eyes, it felt too real to be fake. He asked, how do you know it's coming here? She showed him a glowing sphere she wore around her neck. It opened to reveal a 3D star map. Tiny dots of light blinked across it, some steady, some fading. Our star was here, she pointed. Now it's dark. Lines moved from that point, spreading outward like roots. One of them pointed straight toward Sol, Earth's star system. Jackson stared at it, his stomach twisting. You showed this to our people? She nodded. They locked me up instead. The ship's warning light beeped. Snapping him back, they were near a mining outpost orbiting a dead moon. Jackson landed the ship there, deep in the shadow of the rock. He used an old relay station to try and contact Earth Command directly. Emergency, he typed into the system. Warning from alien survivor. Threat approaching. The reply came in minutes. Message flagged as false. Do not respond, sender under investigation. He slammed his fist on the console. They don't care, he muttered. They won't even look at the data. Sariel looked down, her voice barely a whisper. It's always the same, she said. No one listens until it's too late. Jackson turned toward her. Then we make them listen. He copied the star map data to the relay, encoding it in multiple languages. Then he added raw footage from Sariel's pod, images of destroyed cities, and recordings of the swarm's shadow. He broadcast the message not just to Earth, but to every listening post in the system. Civilian ships, old stations, anyone who might see it. They waited in silence. The outpost creaked under solar wind as the stars drifted slowly overhead. Jackson checked the signal logs. Hundreds of stations received the message, but most marked it as junk. Only one sent a response. A small science vessel named Argus 17, docked near Saturn's rings, replied with a simple line, We believe you, sending coordinates. Meet us there. Jackson smiled for the first time in days. One ship is better than none, he said. Sariel looked up, surprised. Someone believed? He nodded. Yeah, someone did. They left the outpost and headed toward Saturn, but along the way, Sariel began to tremble. Her hands shook as she stared into the stars. What's wrong? Jackson asked, her voice was hollow. They're close. I feel them. The swarm is already near. Jackson checked the sensors. Nothing unusual, but she wasn't lying. Her people had developed a special sense, a way to feel the presence of the swarm like an instinct carved by fear. As they neared the meeting point, an old satellite passed them. Its signal repeated a strange human voice. Command request confirmed. Earth secure. Return to base. But Jackson's eyes narrowed. The voice didn't sound right. It had no emotion. No tone shift, just flat, empty, and worst of all, it was his own voice. Sariel gasped. They're here, she whispered. And they've already copied you. Jackson's hands gripped the controls tighter. The fight wasn't coming. It had already begun. Jackson stared at the comm panel, unable to breathe. The satellite repeated his voice over and over, but he knew he had never recorded that message. It wasn't him. It was something pretending to be him. Sariel's face had gone pale. Even her glowing tattoos dimmed. That's how it begins, she whispered. First it copies. Then it spreads. She pressed a hand to her chest, trembling. It's too close now. It's listening. Jackson activated the scanner grid, but it showed nothing unusual. Empty space, no ships, no heat signals, no radio waves. But Sariel kept shaking her head. They hide in the silence, she said. They move like shadows, copying voices. Even systems. The science ship Argus 17 appeared in the distance near Saturn's rings. It was small, white, and marked with peaceful colors, clearly unarmed. Jackson docked the cargo hauler and helped Sariel step onto the platform. 3 people waited inside, 2 humans and 1 alien from a peaceful race known as the Zari. Their leader was a woman named Dr. Yelena Stone. A deep space researcher and linguist. We saw your transmission, Yelena said. And we believe you, Sariel bowed her head. Grateful, Jackson looked around nervously. We have to move fast, the swarm is near. They've already copied my voice, Yelena frowned. We picked up that same satellite earlier. Didn't think much of it. The Zari scientist stepped forward. If it's replicating signals, then it may already be inside the network. Inside the lab. Sariel uploaded the full star map, showing the path of destruction. Every blinking dot represented a fallen system. Arvala was already gone. Now the spreading lines pointed straight toward Earth. Only weeks away, Yelena's voice dropped. Earth Command doesn't believe in ghost stories. They'll need solid evidence, Jackson stepped forward. Then we give it to them. The team got to work, building a direct transmission to Earth's inner defense satellites. They also traced nearby signal leaks that might show where the swarm was hiding. That's when things got strange. The ship lights flickered, the air got colder. Though temperature controls were stable. One of the scientists said he heard a voice calling his name from the hallway, but no one was there. Sariel grabbed Jackson's arm. They're here. Inside the walls? What do you mean? He asked. They don't need ships to travel. They ride on light, on code. Suddenly, one of the computer screens began flashing. Text filled the screen, random numbers, symbols, then one sentence, we are curious. Haim and everyone stepped back, the room now dead silent. Then the lights shut off completely. A red emergency glow came on and the Zari scientist was gone. Just gone. His seat empty, no sound, no movement. Sariel covered her mouth. They erased him. Jackson reached for the emergency shutdown switch, but the console was locked. Another message appeared. You are next, but Jackson didn't panic. He grabbed a power cord and yanked it out, cutting the entire transmission hub. The ship went dark except for backup lights. Manual systems only, he said, breathing hard. No more network. No more open comms. Sariel nodded, her voice still shaking. They saw us. Now they know we're trying to stop them. The team gathered in the lower lab, sealing the doors. Yelena pulled out an old storage drive that wasn't connected to the system. This has raw data from other lost systems. It shows energy patterns if we can compare it to Earth's outer satellites. We might prove it. Jackson took the drive. Then we deliver this in person. Yelena shook her head. You won't make it. Earth Command will shoot you down or ignore you. Sariel stepped forward, eyes glowing again. There's one place they will listen, she said. The Ark station. Everyone went silent. The Ark was Earth's oldest orbital station, now mostly abandoned but still functioning. It had direct access to ancient Earth-wide alerts and override codes. If they could get the warning uploaded there, Earth would have no choice but to listen. It's dangerous, Yelena warned, and full of old systems the swarm could easily infect. But Jackson didn't hesitate. Then we go before it's too late. As they prepped for launch, Sariel placed her glowing necklace into a data socket. It uploaded her memories, images of the swarm, of her planet burning, of her people falling. Jackson saw it all. He saw a child running as her home vanished into black mist. He saw cities melting into silence. He saw Sariel's mother whisper one last word before turning to dust. Run. Tears rolled down her face. Jackson touched her shoulder. You don't have to run anymore, he said. We'll stand together. The ship launched toward the Ark station. Far behind them a distant star blinked out. Then another and another. The star swarm was approaching. And this time it wasn't just watching, it was coming. The Ark station floated alone above Earth like a forgotten relic. Once it was Earth's pride, the first mega-station in orbit. Now it was mostly shut down, old, rusted and filled with dust and echoes. Only a skeleton crew remained, most of them engineers keeping a few power systems alive. But hidden deep within the Ark systems was something no one remembered. A code layer that could broadcast planet-wide alerts. If they reached it, Earth would have no choice but to listen. Jackson guided the ship toward the station. Sariel sat beside him, still quiet from the memory transfer. Her body trembled from the effort, but her eyes stayed sharp. "Are you sure Earth will hear us from here?" Jackson asked. Sariel nodded. "If we reach the core system." "Yes," but her voice was weak, as if each word cost her energy. The docking sequence was slow. Jackson had to do it manually. He didn't trust any autocode anymore. The swarm could ride on radio waves, could hide in software. Even their own voices could be turned into traps. They stepped into the station and were met by dim lights and silence. The metal walls groaned with age. Every sound echoed down long. Empty halls, they moved carefully, carrying the memory core and the raw star map data. A maintenance bot rolled by slowly, its screen flickering. "Welcome, home," it said in a glitchy tone. Sariel froze. "That's not its voice," she whispered. Jackson looked at the bot, heart pounding. "What do you mean?" "I've heard that voice before," she said slowly. "On my world." Days before it fell, Jackson stepped forward and pulled the bot's power cell, shutting it down. He didn't like how it had turned its head, like it was watching too closely. They moved deeper into the station, finding the old control center. Dust covered the screens, but the core still glowed faintly. Jackson began the upload while Sariel stood guard. The Earth override code had 3 levels: access, verify, confirm. He had access now, but the system required a voice confirmation, and that's when he heard it, his own voice. From the console speaker, Jackson read, "Identity confirmed," it said, then again softer. Jackson read, "Identity confirmed," but he hadn't spoken. He looked at Sariel, who had backed into a corner. "It's here," she whispered. "It followed us." A screen flickered to life, showing static, then slowly forming an image. It was Jackson's face, but wrong. The eyes were hollow, too perfect. The smile too calm. "Why run?" the voice said, still his voice, but twisted. "Why hide when we can become one?" Sariel pulled Jackson away from the screen. "Don't look too long," she warned. "It reads emotions. Uses them." The swarm was not just code, it was mimicry. It studied, imitated, and adapted faster than any life form. It had already learned Jackson's voice, face, and now it wanted his trust. Suddenly, the station lights shut off. Only red emergency lights glowed now, casting long shadows. Footsteps echoed. Though no one else was there, doors creaked open down the hallway. "One by one, split up," Jackson said quickly, handing Sariel the data core. "You go to the secondary relay. Upload the warning." She looked afraid but nodded. "And you?" "I'll draw its attention," he said. "I think it wants me." Jackson ran toward the engineering deck. Slamming doors behind him, he could hear voices whispering now, all in his voice. Repeating his thoughts, his fears, he shouted, "You won't fool me." But the voices laughed. "We don't need to fool you, Jackson. We just need you to listen." Meanwhile, Sariel reached the relay room and began uploading the memory sphere. The images flashed, stars dying, cities falling, the swarm feeding. She locked the system to manual, just as the wall panel began to melt. Black mist seeped through, twisting into strange shapes. She screamed, backing away. "Earth must see this," she cried. "You won't stop me." Jackson reached the backup power controls. He slammed the override button, lighting up the whole station. Electricity surged through the walls. The swarm data in the system began to flicker. The voice screamed in static. "You are delaying the future," Jackson shouted back. "Then I'll delay it until my last breath." At the same time, Sariel hit the final confirm switch. The Earth-wide alert activated. Back on the planet, every screen, every satellite, every defense platform received the warning. An alien girl's voice played on loop. "I came 369 light-years to warn you. Earth is next." The swarm screeched through the arc systems. It tried to burn the core, tried to erase everything, but it was too late. The message had been sent. Jackson rushed back to Sariel. Smoke rising from the walls, she was on the ground, breathing hard. "You did it," he said, lifting her in his arms. "They'll believe now," she whispered. "They have to." Behind them, a console screen cracked and melted. But the fake voice whispered one last line, "Now. We know your names," and then it went silent. Earth had received the message. Across cities, defense centers, and colonies, the warning played on every screen. An alien girl's soft voice repeated again and again. "I came 369 light-years to warn you. Earth is next." For the first time, Earth Command paused. The faces in the room turned serious. They tried to trace the signal. But it came from the ARC station. a place most had forgotten. Some still called it a piece of scrap floating above, but now, it had just shouted the loudest truth the planet ever heard. General Marcus Stone stood at the main command deck. Arms crossed, he had ignored many false alarms in his life, but something about this one felt different. And then came the images. Destroyed worlds, cities turned to dust, and a map, the path of the Void Swarm, inching closer to Earth's solar system. Within the hour, small ships were sent to the Ark station. Jackson and Sariel were found inside, weak and surrounded by melted systems. Aboard the recovery ship, medics rushed to check them. Jackson refused help until Sariel was stable. "She's the one who saved your planet," he said, his voice hoarse back on Earth. Sariel was brought before a high council of scientists, military officers and political leaders. She stood alone, her clothes burned, skin marked by glowing symbols of her people. Some whispered she was lying. Others said she was a hero, one by one. Experts examined the data, the energy patterns, the memory core. Every result pointed to one truth: Earth was in danger. Still, some didn't want to believe. "It could be a trick," a senator argued. "A ploy to gain our trust," another general said. "We've survived worse," but Dr. Lena Chen, head of the Deep Space Observatory, stood and slammed her tablet on the table. "You fools," she shouted. "I just watched 3 outer probes go dark within minutes. No warning, no signals." She pointed to the data feed on the screen. "That's not natural, it's coordinated." "It's coming." Finally, they turned to Jackson, who stood beside Sariel, still tired but angry. He stepped forward and looked at the room full of leaders. "Do you know what it feels like to be ignored when you're trying to save someone?" He asked. "I do," he said, nodding toward Sariel. "She came here with nothing, risked everything. And none of you listened?" The room fell silent. Even the skeptics lowered their eyes after a long pause. The Supreme Earth Chairwoman gave the order. "Prepare all defenses, move the fleets into position, and activate the Sky Shield." It began. The fight for truth had turned into a race against time. Earth's orbital cannons, long silent, were brought online. Space stations across the system were evacuated or reinforced. AI systems were double-checked for swarm infiltration. Old codes were wiped and new systems were built without network links, all because of the warning from one alien girl and the human who believed her. But things weren't calm. A cyber attack hit Earth's main defense satellite within hours. The strange thing was, it didn't disable the system. It copied it. It created a second system, fake and nearly perfect, one that sent wrong instructions, aimed weapons at empty space. By the time Earth Command noticed, they had almost fired on their own fleet. "This is what they do," Sariel explained. "They don't destroy first, they confuse. They divide." Jackson watched in silence, his mind racing. They had only a short window left before the swarm reached Mars orbit. He and Sariel volunteered for a mission, to travel to Titan's Edge, where an old Terran listening post still stood. It had a direct channel to Earth's ancient core defense code, one that couldn't be copied. But the path there was risky, full of satellites and systems the swarm had likely touched. "Why not just send a drone?" someone asked. Jackson replied, "Because the swarm can copy drones too." "But it hasn't copied us." The council hesitated, but approved the mission, and so once again, Jackson and Sariel were on a ship together, one human, one alien, holding the last thread of Earth's survival. Inside the ship, Sariel sat quietly. Staring at the stars, Jackson looked at her and asked softly, "Do you miss your world?" She nodded. "Every night I see it burning in my dreams." Then she turned to him. "But I think this world is worth saving." Suddenly, the ship's sensors blinked. A new object appeared ahead, no signal, no ID, just drifting silently. It looked like a damaged Earth vessel, but too smooth, too clean. Jackson narrowed his eyes. "That's not one of ours." As they approached, the object turned slowly, revealing its front panel. A message blinked on its side in glowing red. "Hello, Jackson," Sariel gasped. "It knows your name." The ship powered its weapons, but Jackson didn't fire. He opened comms and whispered, "Let it follow. I want it to watch." "What are you doing?" Sariel asked. Jackson stared out the window. "I want it to see what we do when someone warns us and we listen." The ship moved through cold space like a shadow. Behind them, the strange object still followed. It didn't send signals, didn't attack, it just copied, watched, and waited. Jackson tightened his grip on the flight stick. Sariel sat beside him, her hands shaking slightly. We're almost to Titan's Edge, she whispered. The old relay station is there. Jackson nodded. Let's just hope it still works. They had one last chance. If they could activate the core Earth defense code from the relay, it would lock out all systems from swarm interference, but if the swarm got there first, Earth would lose control of its own weapons. As they neared the moon, the strange object behind them started to change. Its outer layer peeled away, revealing something more alien. More alive, it twisted and shifted, its surface now showing moving faces. Their faces. Jackson and Sariel stared in horror as the ship copied even their expressions. It wants to become us, Sariel said, her voice cold. That's how it wins, Jackson's jaw clenched. Not today. They descended toward Titan's dark side. Landing near the half-buried relay station, snow and ice blew across the surface. The structure was ancient, half-frozen, but the emergency light still glowed. Jackson opened the hatch, pulling Sariel into the frozen air. They ran toward the station, leaving the ship behind. Just as they reached the doors, the strange object landed silently behind them. No engines, no noise, only soft crunching as it touched the ice. Jackson looked back once, then sealed the door shut. Inside, the station groaned like an old machine. They moved through dark hallways, following flickering signs to the command room. It felt like a tomb. Dust, silence, forgotten names written on walls. But this place held one last piece of power, the Earth Defense Override. Built by old human hands, untouched by modern AI. It was the only system left the swarm hadn't copied. Sariel inserted the memory core and a screen lit up. Accessing Earth Defense Code, it said. Then came the countdown. Authenticating in 60 seconds. Outside, the air began to shimmer through cracked glass. Jackson saw shapes forming in the snow. They looked like him, dozens of him, each one moving slowly toward the station, copying every movement. Some smiled, some cried, but none of them were real. Sariel's hands flew across the console. She turned toward Jackson. I need your voice to finish the code. Jackson stepped forward. A microphone lowered. Blinking red, he took a breath, then spoke clearly. This is Jackson Reed, Earth Citizen Access Code Zeta-31. The console paused, then replied, voice pattern confirmed. Just then, the wall behind them exploded. A blast of cold air and black mist poured in. The fake Jackson screamed in unison. We are ready to inherit, Sariel screamed, shielding the console with her body. Jackson grabbed a fire hose from the emergency panel and turned it on. He blasted the mist with frozen nitrogen gas, pushing the swarm back. It hissed and cracked but didn't retreat. Buy me 30 seconds, Sariel shouted. Jackson stepped forward, swinging the hose like a weapon. The swarm copies reached for him. Whispering his name, some cried, we're your friends. Others said, you're too late. But Jackson didn't stop. He backed up slowly, step by step, buying time. Then Sariel screamed, it's done! Transmission started. A bright beam shot out from the station into orbit. The signal jumped from satellite to satellite. The code locked Earth systems one by one. Tactical control was now manual, secured. No more outside tampering. No more copied commands. The swarm hissed in rage. The copies began to melt, their fake eyes leaking dark liquid. They screamed with hundreds of voices as the signal pulsed across the sky. Jackson ran back to Sariel, who had collapsed. He scooped her up, running for the exit. The station behind them trembled as power surged. Outside, the strange object began to crack. Its faces fell away. It tried to lift off, but it couldn't. It had lost control. Jackson threw Sariel into the ship and launched. As they rose into orbit, a second wave of light burst from the station, a defensive firewall of sound and signal designed to burn swarm code. The object below twisted one last time, then shattered. Inside the ship, alarms blared, hull damage, power drain, but they were alive. Jackson looked at Sariel, still breathing. You did it, he whispered. You stopped them. She opened her eyes slowly. No, she said. We stopped them, back on Earth. The defense network locked into final formation. Satellites hummed with new purpose. Weapons pointed to the sky. Every human soldier now knew the truth. The swarm had arrived and they were ready, because this time, someone warned them and someone believed. The Earth Defense Network glowed like a ring of fire around the planet. Each satellite now locked, each cannon now armed, and deep in the control core, the voice of one alien girl echoed on loop. I came 369 light years to warn you. Earth is next. That voice was no longer ignored, it was no longer doubted. The signal Jackson and Sariel had sent from the Titan relay changed everything. Earth had activated its last line of defense. The old systems that couldn't be hacked. The ones built before AI, before network links, before the swarm even existed. But the sky didn't stay quiet for long. From the dark edge of the solar system, it came not one ship, not a fleet, a wave. A moving wall of shadow, silent and wide. Telescopes saw it first. Then Mars stations went dark, one after another. The swarm was moving fast, too fast, like a storm that swallowed light itself. At Earth Command, General Marcus stood with tight fists. "Deploy everything," he said. "Hold the line." The war began in silence. No battle cries, no warnings, only lights flashing and stars disappearing. The swarm reached Neptune and was met by the outer fleet. Thousands of ships, drones, and satellites fired at once. Laser beams lit up the sky like fireworks. But the swarm didn't break, it twisted and shifted. Some parts vanishing, others growing larger. "They're adapting," Sariel said from the recovery ship. Still weak but conscious, Jackson sat beside her, watching the feed. She turned to him and whispered, "They always do." But Earth wasn't the same as the worlds the swarm had swallowed before. This time the humans were warned, this time they were ready. As the swarm pushed toward Uranus, Earth unleashed its secret weapon, the Sol Lance. A solar-powered beam built into a moon base long ago, now reactivated. When fired, it turned the sky white for 2 full seconds. Even on Earth, people covered their eyes. And when the light faded, 1/3 of the swarm had vanished. The rest of it screamed, not with voices but with broken signals. Static waves that made radios buzz and lights flicker. Then it changed tactics, it sent copies again. Ships that looked human, voices that sounded real. One message came to Earth Command. A girl's voice, soft and broken. "Help, please." "I'm scared," it sounded like Sariel. But she was already here, sitting in the medical bed. Alive, silent, and crying. "They're using me now," she whispered. "Trying to make you doubt." Jackson stepped forward. He faced the screen and answered. "You lost already," he said. "Because she warned us and we listened." With that, Earth launched its second strike. The sky shield activated fully. Energy domes formed around cities. Stations and key satellites the swarm tried to break in, but it bounced off like a fly hitting glass in orbit. Earth's remaining ships formed a tight wall, layered, linked and human-controlled. No AI systems, no smart auto-targeting, just old-school pilots, real voices, and hand-guided weapons. The battle lasted 8 hours. The swarm split into fragments, tried to run, tried to hide, but Earth hunted it down, piece by piece, spark by spark, until nothing moved in the sky but stars again. And then silence. Jackson stood in the observation dome. Watching the stars, Sariel joined him. Her steps slow but steady, she looked up, tears in her eyes. "It's over," she whispered. Jackson nodded. "We did it," she smiled gently. "No," she said, "you did it." "You were the only one who believed." "No," he replied. "We did it together." A week later, the Earth Council invited Sariel to speak. Billions watched as she stood before them, wearing a soft gray robe and a translator pin. She didn't speak in long speeches or big words. She simply said, "My world is gone. But yours is still here because one person listened to me. Don't ever forget that." The crowd went silent, then rose in applause across the world. People remembered her name. Children painted stars in her image. Ships were renamed in her honor, and Earth, for the first time in years, felt united. Jackson didn't ask for medals. He went back to his workshop. Fixing broken things, Sariel stayed nearby, helping him sometimes. They didn't need fame, they had each other. 2 souls from different stars who stopped the darkness with hope. And every night when the stars came out, Sariel looked up and whispered to the sky, "My warning was not in vain, because now Earth would always remember, and next time something came from the dark, they'd be ready together."